Hangout Air is live. Hello, welcome, people of the internet. I am Eric Casey, eRockstar5 on Twitter, representing Toonami Squad, and with us is Sonny Strait.
Hi, Sonny Strait, at Sonny Strait.
So, basically, we're interviewing Sonny, Toonami Squad exclusive and all. How's it going, Sonny? How are things?
Awesome, man. How's it going with you guys?
Awesome.
Amazing.
Staying gold.
Just gotta say, we really appreciate you coming out here on this late Friday and doing this interview with us, man. We really appreciate it.
Well, I'm glad to be here. I want to talk about this. This was a really cool event, the Toonami event. So, yeah, I would love... And I've been sitting on it for so long. I think they asked me back in May. And then they put it on hold for a while, and I'm like, I can't tell anyone about this. And I think I signed a 10-page non-disclosure agreement not to talk about this thing. So I'm like, I can't talk to anybody about this, and this is the coolest thing to happen in years. So I was glad when it finally came out, just so I could talk about it.
Yeah, I bet, and we got some questions for you to talk about it. So, basically, what you were just talking about, the first question that we have here is, how did the Intruder 2 meeting go down? Like, who did you talk to? Like, what was the whole process when they approached you? And
basically, it was the administration people. Toonami called me or sent me a email and asked me if I would like to do it. And I was like, "Are you kidding? Of course, I would love to do that. It'd be great. Just to be able to play Toonami Tom again." Even as a villain was awesome. And at first, because I didn't know anything of what it was going to be until like the last minute when we recorded it. But so really? I was thinking, is it going to be like one of those Doctor Who things where they bring all the doctors in or something like that? This is much cooler, you know. This is very reflective of where they went and what they had gone before and where they were going. And it was so awesome to see like parts of the old Tom, like on this blob. It was really cool.
Yeah, I can speak for all of us where it kind of blew our minds when we first saw that in episode 3, I think it was, right?
Yeah.
Very
that was
unexpected.
Insane.
Yeah, it was pretty insane. When I saw they sent me the animations for it, I was like, oh wow, this is cool. This is gonna blow minds.
Did you get the animation? Did you get the screencaps?
They sent me the rough animations.
Script first.
They sent me rough animations and script together, and so I could get a good idea of what it was. And then they did the final animations on top of our voices.
Okay.
Did you get to watch the animation while you did the voices? Like, did you get to do that?
Yeah, I watched the rough animation and recorded over it. Yeah.
Okay, so
it was pretty complete. I mean, there was some. You could see there were some finishing touches that they added to it afterwards, but they had a lot of it already done.
So what do you think they would have done if you kind of said, I'm not going to do it? Because it seems like what you're saying, that they had everything ready, and they're like, this is, the most important.
I think if I said I wasn't going to do it, they probably would have called people in to have me put away because it would be really insane not to have done it.
Oh, dude, you're such a big part of it. So, I mean, it's kind of you can't not do it. I mean, it just can't happen. So. Well,
it's so cool, like to come full circle like that too.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
And the closest I came to giving anything away was I just wrote when the first one was coming out. I said I have to promote this somehow. So on Twitter, I said to Steve Bloom, I remember my first Intruder, good luck, buddy.
That's dangerous, man. Twitter gets people in trouble nowadays. So
oh, yeah.
It must have been hard.
Boy, do they. Yeah.
That was a clever tweet, though, because we're thinking, like, oh, that's just Sonny, pretending he's on Twitter.
But I just felt like it was my job to promote it, because I'm a part of it, but I didn't want to give anything away.
Mm-hmm.
No, definitely. I hear you.
That was pretty clever, though, yeah.
Yeah. And plus, it was cool to be able to work with Steve Bloom. He's awesome.
How about that?
I bet.
Yeah.
Is that your first time working with Steve Bloom?
Yeah. What's weird is that he and I do conventions all the time, but we never do it at the same time. We have never done it at the same time. So Yeah, it's it was the first time we worked together, and it was worked together in like the coolest way ever, you know.
It's
Although,
a pretty awesome
we're
project
trying to set
work
up
together with.
Yeah, we're setting up some kind of a digital patch system where we can record more easily with people in other states at Funimation. So it would be good to get somebody like Steve, you know, who's in California, to, you know, head over and record with us. That'd be great.
So wait, you can record sort of like in someone else's house?
We haven't got it.
Like,
we're in the process of setting this up now, where we can, like, not in his house, but in a studio in California, could be hooked up to our studio, and we'll be able to record them live. That's actually what I did. I did that with Toonami, you know, for this thing. I recorded in Dallas, and they're in Georgia.
Oh wow!
So kind of like doing like this kind of setup where you guys can kind of like do the performance and kind of feed off each other and stuff.
Yeah, I think they use Skype actually.
Do you think it's going to be used more often now? Like, because it gives a lot of dynamic to it, you know?
And it saves a lot of money too, because you don't have to pay for airfare and hotels and all that. You can just go over to a studio across town and record, you know? I mean, but that's what I did when I did Toonami originally. Although that was in the old days, when the internet was not as cool as it is now. And that digital patch system, oh my God, the digital patch, it took like an hour to set up. This is much easier. These times are easier.
Yes, they are. The technologies.
Yeah.
Well,
advancing every day.
Well, going back, Sonny, going back to the Intruder, when you saw the screen caps or the animation and the script and seeing what the direction Jason was going with this, what was your initial reaction with everything? With all that,
it kind of felt surreal, you know, like I didn't believe it was happening. And Jason said the same thing. He said, if you had told me 10 years ago that we'd be bringing you back and redoing this and still doing Toonami, I would think you're crazy, you know. And I felt the same way about anime. When I first got on Dragon Ball Z, I thought, this is so cool. I'm on TV. I give it 2 years, and then I'll have to find another job. I did not expect. Yeah, I did not expect it. I thought it was a fad. I thought it would go away, and then Jason and his crew really liked what I did with Krillin and asked me to audition for Toonami Tom. And I got Toonami Tom, and I went, oh, this is cool. And I thought, well, maybe I now have a career in voice acting, but I still didn't believe that anime would still be around. You know, I figured I would have to find, you know, maybe move to California and get on like Bugs Bunny or something. You know? But I'm amazed that the shows have lasted this long, and they're stronger than ever. You know.
Yeah, it is kind of shocking and amazing. Like, even from a fan's perspective too. Like the whole April Fool's thing.
Yeah, that was
that was just insane. Like, holy crap! Like, we went in, we weren't expecting us to make to bring back Toonami hashtag and actually having it come back. We thought that was going to be a lost cause.
Yeah, like
you just thought it would be fun to do and let people know what we love, but it's never going to happen.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then boom.
We don't have the power of Star Trek where they could harass the guy and, you know, get a whole thing. We just don't.
Well, apparently you do.
Well, we didn't think we did. We didn't think we did. So, I mean, it became such a cult classic that, I mean, and the fact that the people who do it now, I mean, they don't get paid. I mean, I don't think that.
Yeah, and I think a lot has to do with it. How, you know, I mean, a lot of these people grew up with this, you know. And the original Tom, he was always like giving life lessons and things like that, you know, and talking about courage and bullying and stuff like this. And so I think it kind of helped people connect with it in a very emotional way that stayed with them. And it's really funny, like with Dragon Ball Z, I now talk to people at conventions who are adults who watched it when they're kids, but they watch Dragon Ball Z now with their kids. And first of all, I feel really old.
That just blows my mind.
Yeah, but it's like, really, we're almost into third generation on this, you know? Yeah. It's pretty amazing.
Yep.
It goes to kind of like the Star Wars thing where, I mean, now you go on the TV commercials where the kid goes into, or the kid gets a thing from the dad, and then the grandfather's there, and the dad gives it to the kid.
Oh yeah, the Walmart commercial.
Yeah. So I mean, and the whole thing with like the Dragon Ball Z thing is, I watched it, and of course bullying and Tom dude, like it's one of those things where it's not like a parent preaching to you or saying like you need to go talk to a parent, plus the Dragon Ball Z, I liked it for a while until one of my friends brought it up, and then I was like, oh, you like it too? And then, all of my friends were like, yeah, we like it, and it's kind of like, it was just surprising that I wasn't the only person watching it kind of thing. And it was just like, you could see how people related to it. And
do you guys go to the conventions too?
I don't live near conventions, so.
Yeah. I tried to go this year, but it didn't work out timing-wise. I had school and stuff, and yeah, but I've been trying
the like-mindedness, though, is what made me think of that, because at conventions, it's like these little communities of, like-minded individuals who basically create they create a little mini city for the weekend of anime fans.
One of my members, Berserk Fury, she goes to the New York Comic Con, and she experiences that stuff, and it's literally like Toonami is kind of a calling. It's kind of like a call to like bring people together. It seems. I joined Twitter a few months ago. And now, it's kind of shocking. I did it for ratings, to be honest with you, to make sure that it was, it kept going. And there's just such a huge community. And most of it is very welcoming. I mean, you like your shows.
I was surprised of it, how large it is, because I had a Twitter account, but I never used it. And I started directing this year. And so, Funimation wants us to promote what we're doing. So I said, okay, I'll start using my Twitter account. And I think I had 2,000 people on my Twitter thing just for having my name on there, I guess. But now it's pushing 8,000, just this, past 6 months because of the anime community.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and dude, you can't minimize your importance to it. I mean, like everyone, has at least seen one of their favorite animes that you have been a part of. So, even if it wasn't the real Sonny Strait, they would still probably follow it just in case it really was.
Yeah, just because.
Yeah.
So I mean I just find that kind of amazing. So because before I didn't really talk about anime unless like with my friends, and now because I live for a place where people like it, but it's not very prevalent. But until you start talking about it and like talking about it at school, it's kind of everywhere, and it's just amazing.
I thought it was kind of weird too. Like I would go to elementary schools when Dragon Ball Z. We first got hit -- 1, right? And I didn't know what that meant. We were the highest rated animated TV show in American history at one point. So I was, and a friend of mine who was a teacher, she said, "Hey, could you come and talk to my class?" And I said, "Sure." And I went over there, and I was just blown away at how all these kids were watching the show, and they even had like paraphernalia and like pictures of Goku in their notebooks and stuff, and I was just like, "Wow, really?"
I wish my school.
It's still kind of surprising.
I wish my school did that. Like what Shadow was saying, like I remember those I was watching it when I was from 2nd to 4th grade. I was in Catholic school, and those were the years where I was really, really into Toonami. And I remember talking to my friends in Catholic school when during recess or just hanging out in class or whatever, and going over. I remember this one conversation I had with my friend when Kid Buu it's when Super Buu actually turned everybody into chocolate stars, Sonny, Krillin, and ate everybody. But
great part.
It's moments like that, and just re-experience it now. It's just so weird.
I really love that scene actually because a lot of people like to razz on Krillin and say he's a wuss or whatever, but it's like he went into that fight knowing he was going to be turned into candy, knowing he was going to die, just to buy his friends and family a couple more seconds. He rushes in where angels fear to tread. Yeah, it's courage. Yeah.
And he's leaving a very, very attractive wife. Okay.
That's right. That's right.
You gotta weigh that.
He's giving up a lot.
Yeah. So I mean, I remember when Pokemon cards came out, and then people grew out of that, and then literally the next thing that happened was DBZ cards were everywhere.
Yeah.
Like,
well, the Dragon Ball Z cards, they used to drive this Dragon Ball Z Hummer around. This was like when the Hummer first came out, so it was still kind of a big deal. And it was this military machine, right? And they put Dragon Ball Z logos on it and stuff. Mm-hmm. And they would drive it to different signings, and they would fly us out to do the signings. And people always ask, hey, do you guys drive that Hummer around? And we're like, no, we have a driver who does that. They fly us in. But I started thinking about it, and I went to the people at SCORE, and I said, wouldn't it be cool if one of the voice actors did drive that Hummer around the country? Oh. And they said, well, who'd be crazy enough to do that? And I said, I would. So they set up a tour called Krillin Battle to the Max.
Oh, God.
And it was just me and a Hummer and Krillin driving around the whole country playing the Dragon Ball Z card game.
Oh, wow.
And it was, if they could beat me, they got a prize. And which was really easy at first because the game gave me a headache. But after a while, I got so good at that game. I had to cheat against myself so I could give away prizes. So you're looking at one of the best Dragon Ball Z card game players ever.
Well,
yeah, I'm trying to be impressed. Be impressed.
I never played it, honestly, so I'm good. Your title is safe.
I haven't played it since.
So getting back to the intruder thing, what was your, when you were doing it, what was your favorite, like, if you would pick one scene or one thing that you were involved in the animation, kind of like when you met the recent Tom, what would it be, and what would be the takeaway moment of Intruder 2 for you?
I really loved when he's like, Tom, I'm coming for you, Tom.
Actually, really
I just love taunting the new Tom.
Kind of like the Warriors thing. The Warriors come out.
Yeah, that's exactly what went through my head.
That scene was creepy. That's so weird.
And personally, I didn't expect to, because the first episode, it doesn't give much away until, bam, like you got like some gelatinous mass that's attacking the Tom, and it ends up being Tom 1 mixed with like
the intruder.
It was kind of
probably the best kept secret I've ever been a part of.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, because when we did the Dragon Ball Z movie, we weren't allowed to say that we were dubbing it, until it was official. But that was not such a big surprise. Most people probably figured we would get it, But this was so unexpected. No one saw this coming. No one saw them bringing me back in as Toonami as a blob. So yeah, it was.
As part of a blob.
It was good. Yeah.
A dangerous blob too. Let's clarify
a dangerous red blob.
Yeah, a dangerous blob. So, and I mean, it was just. I really, really enjoyed it because the OG Tom, my childhood Tom, gets to come back, and you kind of see, it being relived, and kind of Tom can't shake this intruder dude. I mean, even when he becomes it, he's still, and
because he is him, at least part of him.
Yeah, I mean, now he's part of him. So, but I just really enjoyed that. I mean, that I really enjoyed that scene though. The Warriors, man. That's exactly what I thought.
Yeah, the reveal of it was just a blow. It was a low blow. Tell Jason next time you see him, that was revealing that was kind of a low blow for Toonami fans, but in a good way.
A good low blow.
He's hit below the belt.
Yeah.
Below the belt.
Yeah.
Well, to add
but
to
how else could they possibly bring back Toonami 1, Tom 1? They had to do something like that, Otherwise it would have been really cheesy.
Yeah, it was a classy way. It was definitely a classy.
I mean, they could have said, okay, we're gonna download his original software because I need more people to help me out or something,
Yeah, or
but
like
instead they said, Yeah, they said, no, let's make the blob absorb him, and then he's got to fight himself, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Be one with the intruder.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It was a clever twist on it.
Did you
Great
enjoy
reveal.
playing the evil part this time instead of on the other side, the receiving end?
Yeah. I love playing evil. I seldom get to because I don't know. I think I come across as too nice of a guy
Like
at work or
Krillin.
something.
Like Krillin.
Yeah, Krillin, Maze Hughes, really nice guys, father figures. I sometimes get to play the evil guy, and when I do, I relish it. But generally, it's either going to be a very nice, sweet guy, or a goofy guy, or a combination of those things.
That seems to be like a common voice actor trait that you guys always want to play the bad guys for some reason, or voice the bad guys for some reason.
It's the funnest thing to do because you're letting your id out,
Yeah.
I mean, most of us are pretty nice
Attracted to the
people.
dark side.
Well, not only that, it's a challenge as an actor because as an actor, you want to do something that's other than yourself. And if you keep getting typecast and stuff all the time and never get to spread your wings a little bit to the evil dark side, then you're missing out on a big part of the characterization you could be exploring.
Interesting.
What did you do to kind of get into that to the evil role, playing both Tom as like the guy doing kind of like saving, kind of being a good guy, to being Tom the bad guy? Was there anything you did to kind of like
Give me Sarah.
did you do anything to like kind of prepare yourself and get into the role?
I always it's kind of like possession, except I let them possess me. And I say that, like, especially anime, it's like puppeteering.
Absolutely.
Except you're the puppet and the screen is the puppeteer, and you got to let yourself go completely and let it take over. And luckily there was animation for this already, so I could really see where he was going with it. So I just put myself in his place. You have to have empathy for a villain to play a villain well, and it was all about surviving for him. He had to survive, and he couldn't keep surviving if the other Tom was still around.
I mean,
So he had to destroy him.
Every villain also has a reason why they are a villain.
Yeah.
And
they have to believe they're right. That's the thing. The villain has to believe he's right, and that what he's doing is for the best.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Definitely.
I agree.
So do you prefer to have the animation while you do the voiceover? Like, is that something that you find helpful?
It is today. I mean, when I started out, it was very difficult, and matching those mouth flaps like that can be very difficult, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Yes. Definitely.
But the thing is that once you get used to acting that way, then when I go to do video games or animation that's been prelay, which means they animate on you, you have to imagine everything that's around you.
Like a dry run.
Yeah, exactly. And especially if you're not. You don't have anybody recorded before you, so you're just doing it by yourself. It can be a daunting thing, But I think that most people who are actors would be more comfortable in that environment than doing anime. Because anime, if you don't have that rhythmic talent to match those voice flaps, you're going to have a hard time. And I teach voice acting workshops, and I have a Funimation engineer. We actually record people doing Funimation products and stuff. Just to get them practice and everything. And it's a rare talent to find somebody who can just naturally do that.
So the crossover between an actor and a voice actor is a big leap. And would you say
no. I think that it's required that you are an actor first. Now, whether you have that rhythmic talent or not that you can match mouth flaps is a completely other story. I did a lot of theater in Dallas and Fort Worth before Funimation moved to Texas. And once I got on there and I started directing, I went, well, shoot, I know a lot of actors because I did a lot of theater. And I would bring these actors in, and most of them had a really hard time with that. I was like, I expected them to be brilliant because they were brilliant on stage, but it doesn't always translate in the booth. It's an additional ability you got to have than just being acting. Now, you can't just be able to do that. You still have to be a really good actor. The main reason you have to be a really good actor is that you have to match flaps and still sound natural, you know? So you are doing a lot of things at once. That is a very difficult thing to master. I remember when Chris Sabat took over directing many years ago for Dragon Ball Z, he said what his goal was is that he wants us to sound as if we are recording prelay. And they said, and we were like, what's prelay? Because none of us knew anything. This was most of our first job in animation. And he explained to us, well, that's when you record first and they animate on you. We want it to sound like that's what we did. So that's been our goal for a long time, is to try to sound as if we recorded first and they animated on top of it.
And do they still do that technique even nowadays, or has it changed over the years?
I don't know. I don't know if that's the goal for every director. That's one of my goals as a director, though, is I want it to sound very natural. I want it to sound as if, you were acting the scene out on stage.
Mm-hmm. Of course, definitely. You want the most natural response to it. Definitely.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any other challenges as a director that you had before, like in the past, and it's gotten better or worse up until nowadays?
Well, going back to Chris Sabat, he gave me the best advice I ever got from any director, from theater or animation. When I first started directing, he said, really listen to what the actor is giving you. It may not be what's in your head, but if it works just as well for the scene, go with their choice. There's several reasons for that. One, actors are big babies, and their egos are very fragile. So you want to encourage them. So if they're given a read, if you keep saying, no, read it like this, do it like this, over and over, it's going to shoot them down, and their creativity is going to suffer for it, right? So you want to keep them up, you want to keep the energy going. So if it works just as well with their read, it doesn't have to be what's in your head. Also, what's in your head tends to be cliche. Until you're living that moment as the actor, you're going to... My favorite thing, like I was just talking about this today, one of my actors came in, it was Alexis Tipton, who's an amazing actor, and she read a line, and it was completely different than what I had in my head, but it worked so well, and it wasn't like, I didn't think anyone else would deliver that line that way, and I said, that's what makes me happy, that's what gets me stoked about coming here, is when I hear that kind of reading, that's something so surprising but works really well. And it just gives you a dimension to the character that would probably come off flat if anybody else had tried to do it.
Yeah, I completely agree with you there.
Yeah.
So you're really, as a director, trying to be more as a encouragement, like a sports coach, and being flexible. Yeah. So if it's one of those things, the style thing might not be yours, but it's even better, and it will work for this.
Mm-hmm. Now, that being said, I've seen some really good shows that directors had gone in, and they have a set way that they want everything to sound, right? And they will dictate to you, do it this way, do it this way. They give what we call a line reading, and they do it. But I personally don't like that. I like the actor to be just as much of an artist as the director and the writer and the engineer. Everybody in the booth to me is an artist, and I want us all to contribute to what we're creating. And I don't know if it's better than what somebody else would do in that situation, but I do know that everybody who comes out of that felt like they contributed something to this process, and we all feel better about it. It feels like you're making art, Yeah.
Harmony, yeah.
Yeah. And when you do that, you always create something that is better than the sum of its parts. It's a gestalt. It goes beyond what you set out to do. Mm-hmm. And and plus, I'm coming from an acting background anyway, so I love actors. So I really like to see what they can do, and I trust them. I don't cast them if I don't trust them.
I think that's the most important thing for a director, is if a director can trust his performers to get it out, definitely.
So that's probably the most important thing to me, is to be able to trust that this actor can do this. Now, that being said, they don't always get it because they're coming in, they haven't read the script. I have. So they have to trust me and that I know what I'm talking about in the scene. So a lot of times if they're not quite getting it, I'll explain the scene more fully to them. And if that doesn't work, then I'll say, let's. I gave the most disturbing direction to a guy playing a very effeminate character who I don't want to give away too much because we haven't announced his property yet. But I said, read it as if he was raped by his father as a child, and say the line then. And he went, I am going to be sad all day because of that direction. I said, good. This is a very sad character. You need to feel that.
No,
and he did, and it was a beautiful reading, and I knew that that's what he needed because you could tell this character had a very disturbed childhood, and telling him that got him in the place that he needed to be. It was a dark place, and I'm sorry I had to take him there, but it worked.
It works, right?
Yeah. See, that goes to like the next kind of group of questions that we wanted to kind of ask you was focusing on like your career. So I think we have some questions for that. I mean, we're probably going to focus on the anime and directing role, and then go to the comic book illustration part, because one of our members, Berserk Fury, she absolutely loves that, and she's actually really, really stoked, and that's what she focused her questions on. So
cool.
So I think we have some questions. I don't know if the Trip or Phantom has some questions, or I can start. So
yeah, anything else you want to add to Intruder 2? Feel free, anybody.
10-4.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm just glad that the original Tom was, came back, and it just made it that much more, memorable, and the whole full circle thing really, I just really enjoyed it, and I thought, it was very insightful, and it was nice to the Toonami fans that remember it, as well as the ones that are.
Well, Jason told me while we're recording it, he said it's because the fans requested that you come back so much that you're back. I was like, well, that's really cool. Yeah.
So we have that power? Is that what you're telling us?
I think so. I think to a certain degree in any creative endeavor that's in like popular media, fan feedback is going to be heard. So, yeah, of course, especially something. I mean, there's so much we can do with anime because it's already been done. It's been recorded and made in Japan already. But something like Toonami that's done here, your voices have a lot to say with what happens, They may not take every suggestion, but they're going to hear you and go, hey, that's a good idea,
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, even though that, like, it's late at night, I mean, you can just tell that, I mean, I know people who just stay up and, they don't, they'll clear their day on Sunday so they can do it. I mean, I'm one of those, so I make sure I get all my schoolwork done. I mean, a bunch of...
Well, and Toonami's really good about staying in touch with their fans and stuff, because they can easily get, like, Twitter following and Twitter, what's it called when you... Oh, what is it called when Twitter, you got the most numbers of Twitter?
Followers?
Followers?
No.
A movement?
Hits.
Likes.
Oh, trending, you mean?
Trending, thank you. That was the word that couldn't get out of my brain for a minute. Yeah, trending. Toonami trends all the time because, hey, let's trend this. And they're like, okay, and they all start talking about it, and boom, it's trending.
Yes.
Yeah, and Tom won trending.
Yeah.
With
trending, the guy who actually created this, the Toonami squad, he actually, went out and made the video for trending, and I think that the problem we had was it was more decentralized, and there's no real, someone telling, Toonami, I don't know if they did or not, but it was like what to do to optimize the time, because it's a short window that we have. I mean, and it's late at night, so, once we got that, I mean, I remember when like a few, maybe 2 or 3 times after that thing aired on Toonami, the thing is, we trended perfectly for a while. It didn't. It wasn't like for a fluke. It was for a while. So, and that kind of, I mean, it blew all of us away, I think.
This is how strong the fandom is. When Usopp, I play Usopp on One Piece.
Yep.
When he becomes the Sniper King.
The Sniper King.
Yeah. Yep. The day he sang that Sniper King song.
Oh my God.
The next day was Father's Day. And
goodness.
Okay, in the world, Sniper King trended second place right after Happy Father's Day.
Oh,
Wow. Yeah,
Yeah,
wow.
that's some fandom power right
Crazy.
there.
Mhm.
Yeah,
But by the way, is that actually you singing the song? By the way, in the English
that's
dub?
me.
That's you.
Oh, the wind
Oh, that was
carries
awesome.
my name. Yeah.
That actually brings me to one of the questions I want to ask about a former character that you actually played.
Okay.
I
no.
call him the number one dad in Full Alchemist.
Yeah.
I mean, I loved
In
him.
most anime.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
he
Most
definitely
anime.
tops the chart of probably the best dad. So
Well,
I
if we're going to talk about him, I'm going to put my glasses on. Okay. Go ahead.
because I just wanted to
Gotta have the glasses.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask you. I mean, 'cause I know you are a father. I mean, you're married as well. So,
Yeah.
is there anything that you actually kind of took away, or somewhat related to his either personality or his, affection for his
I
family?
would say with that character, it was something I brought to him because I'm a proud father and husband, and when I first did that role, my daughter was a lot closer to Alicia's age, and
Oh my God.
I remember
that'd
the
be so
audition.
adorable. Sorry.
Yeah. In the audition, we used the line from the show was, "Sorry, but I have a wife and daughter to go home to."
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
And I did the audition. It was for Colleen Klinkenbeard, and
Clink.
she told me later that after I walked out of the room, she said, "He is Hughes." So she just cast me as Hughes because of that. Probably the most typecast role I had.
Life imitating art kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, see, he was by far one of my favorite characters in Full Metal Alchemist, and he's always happy and jovial.
He's always joking around, and he's always messing with Roy.
Mustang. Yeah.
Yeah. Get yourself a wife.
So the next question I wanted to get to is having voice acted for a bunch of iconic characters, which
Yeah.
one would you say was your best work, and is there a reason why? Did you relate to them more? Did you think that with your possession kind of thing that you referenced before, did it just click with you and it was just on the money in a sense?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, Krillin and Maze Hughes, those characters I related to really well. But the character, and it surprised me because I would not have said this is the one before, was Usopp on One Piece. And that was because of one particular scene. He gets beaten up and money is stolen from him. And he starts realizing it's because he's so weak. He hangs around with all these people who are superheroes, basically, and he's the weakest one. And there's a scene where he is crying and angry at the same time. And while I was recording it, I actually had tears coming down my face. And I was like, that's never happened to me in, my 17-year career. So I said, you're my favorite now because you actually moved me. And you always want to try to feel the emotions of the characters. But that moment, I was so into it, and Mike, who's directing it, really slowed it down. He said, this is so important that we get this right. And so we really worked at it, studied it, and then, I was actually moved to tears by it. And I said, this is good. This is powerful stuff.
Oh, with some characters, I don't know about other people, but in certain, in parts of a show, it's so moving. I mean, I know you had a small part in Fairy Tail, but when Linzana came back after being dead in a different world, and I got worked up in a couple other parts of shows. It actually affects you, and I mean that's something that I think that the voice actors actually, they must have felt something because it was completely conveyed to the audience in a very sincere, and it pulled on the heartstrings and effectively.
Well, and you always want that as an actor. You want to be so involved in the emotion, invested into it, that you feel it. But a lot of times you're doing it like one line where you got to cry, and then you're in a completely different scene later, right?
Yeah.
But then there are some shows that last a long time, like Fairy Tail and One Piece and Dragon Ball Z, where you get to really know these characters and understand these characters. And so when they do have an emotional moment, you can really relate to it and feel it, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like when Krillin, when he broke up with that girl on the beach and then realized he made a mistake, I felt that, you know? That was a pretty sad scene for him. And by that time, I had been doing Krillin about 4 years, you know, so I was with him, you know?
Yeah. I mean, with doing, you know, a character for so long, it becomes kind of part of you in a sense, and you know, part of your kind of being. And you know,
the thing about Hughes, a lot of people like said, "How did you feel when Hughes died?" And I always said, "Unemployed," because I wasn't working for months. But also, he didn't feel that kind of pain. You did, because you watched it happen. He felt the anger and survival instincts of the moment, but he really wasn't, you know, feeling the emotional pain like the viewers were.
Yes.
Yeah, because he was more inclined in trying to, you know, solve the whole mystery and everything, and in that whole situation,
Although I'll say
he was
this,
just trying to do the right thing.
which did you like, the original better or Brotherhood better?
I personally like Brotherhood.
Yeah.
Brotherhood, yeah.
Brotherhood as well, yeah.
I really liked the death scene in both, but because like I think the first one, Hughes's death was very poetic and succinct, but the second one in Brotherhood was so bloody. It was just so fun to do. He was getting blood over the phones, on desk, on the ground. It was just a mess. And also, I think he had a bit more closure, you know, because even though it was in his head, he's still saying goodbye and, you know, I'm sorry, Alicia, I got to go, whatever. Where in the first one, he didn't have that at all, you know. It's just he died.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was one of the things that I find Brotherhood, like, especially with your character. I feel like he was more developed in Brotherhood than in the first one. He was just like a side character, but he actually has some depth. Like I love the connection between his daughter and Winry. Their relationship, like that scene when after your death and Winry and Ed visits your wife. It's moments like that.
Funny too is that
Brotherhood just gets me.
He had such a big impact in Brotherhood, but you know, he dies so much sooner in Brotherhood than he did in the original.
Yeah.
In the original series, it's like episode 25 when he dies. In Brotherhood, he dies by episode 9.
I think, and I think part of the reason why it was so impactful was because of the quick death, because you don't see it coming really in the context of Brotherhood.
And he left a mark. He left, like, it seemed like he left more of a mark and impact. Like, for me, he seemed like he died. He didn't die that early because of how kind of, how much more he had compared to
he hit really hard. His impact was very strong from the beginning on Brotherhood, whereas in the original, he was just kind of scattered throughout, peppered here and there.
Like popping up jovial and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So the next question I wanted to ask, with all the well-known series that you have done, which one do you think had everything done perfectly? Like, which one did you just think just nailed it?
I don't know, man. A lot of them. Full Metal Alchemist is pretty solid, both versions. Dragon Ball Z, for what it is pretty darn solid. I know that if I was 10 years old and that show had come out, I would be a quick fan, because I used to dream about shows like that when I was a kid, because we didn't have shows like that. We had shows like Super Friends and stuff like that, but we wanted shows like that showed real superpowers and people moving and taken seriously, but it never was, you know? We had nothing like that.
Cartoons. The Hanna-Barbera cartoons.
Although I've got to say, I was a big fan of Hanna-Barbera cartoons.
Yeah, no, same
like
here.
the Wacky Racers.
Yep, Wacky Racers.
And what was it, the Anthill Mob and
Penelope Pitstop.
Yeah, poor Penelope, she's going to be crushed. All those goofy ass voices, I really loved them, but at the same time, I was thinking about that the other day. It was like, when I was a kid, I dreamed about doing cartoon voices. But it wasn't like this, right? I dreamed of doing things like Underdog and stuff like that. But I was watching Underdog on YouTube recently, and that show is so stupid. The shows we do at Funimation are far superior to any of these animation shows that I dreamed of doing. You know, so
I would agree.
It's better than what I dreamed. You know,
I would agree that Krillin is way better than Underdog can ever be.
Oh yeah.
There's no need to fear. Krillin is here.
being
Kamehameha, bitches.
as you were part of as you were talking about Dragon Ball Z and how that's the stuff that you wanted as a kid.
Yeah.
Do you feel like that was do you feel basically honored that you were part of such a massive thing, and not just that, but Krillin is an important character, and he provides things that other characters just doesn't. So did you enjoy it? Like, looking back on it, did you just?
Oh yeah. I mean, and you can't say this about many jobs, but in 17 years, I never went, oh man, I have to go to work. You always look forward to going to work, and that's. And yeah, it can be really hard. It can be a lot of hours, especially if you're directing. I've pulled a lot of 14-hour days before, but but enjoyed all of it. It's just it's an amazing. It is an honor to be able to work in your craft and work in a way that you feel something you can be proud of. Mm-hmm. But to answer your question, Dragon Ball Z is not the epitome. That's not the one show I'd say they got everything right. To me, that show is One Piece. I love that show.
And never ends.
It never.
Yeah. You know how they say, you want these things from your childhood, but when you go back to watch them, they're really not what you thought they were. Yep. But so when you remake them, you got to make them better than that because people remember it as being better than it is.
Yeah. You remember only the good parts, in a sense.
Right. One Piece to me is the way I remember Hanna-Barbera cartoons were. They were wacky and fun and weird, except it has so much more depth to it,
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Yep, absolutely.
But you still get to make the goofy voices.
Oh, but
even though that voice hurts.
The voice hurts that you do.
Oh, yeah. Well, I can do Krillin all day, but Usopp has a hitch in his voice, and that hitch really hurts.
Well, it really pisses me off when people go, that's the same voice that he uses for Krillin. I'm like, no, it isn't. Krillin is so much easier.
Is there
I can do Krillin for days.
Is there any chance
I will admit, I was one of those guys, honestly. I was actually in a conversation with my friend the other day.
Well, you can hear Krillin in it, but it's a different voice.
That's what I was referencing, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But you do bring up a good point that it's kind of like more squeaky, and that has to be...
Okay, so if you're talking like Krillin, it's like this all day, right? Okay?
Right.
Now here's Usopp. Can you hear the difference?
Yes.
It's a lot different.
I hear the hitch.
Yeah, it sounds painful too. It sounds
painful.
It is painful. And it is, and it's really my attempt to try to sound as much like the Japanese Seiyu as I can. Mm-hmm. That's the one show I also say that if you don't like the way I do the voice, then you're very hard to please, because we were actually cast by Oda.
Snap.
Yeah, they really wanted to be a part of the auditioning process, so they asked Funimation to pick like the top 5 to 10 actors for each role, and then they sent the recordings to Japan, and then Oda decided who's going to be what. And I also heard that Oda, in his mind, he thinks they speak English in that world. So not only are we cast by Oda, we're what Oda really thinks they should sound like. So if you don't like the way I do Usopp, fine, but you're really hard to please.
No, I love how you do Usopp.
Oh, I know you do. I'm not accusing you. I'm saying people in general. Yeah. You just said he sounds like Krillin, and that I will believe. Yeah, it does sound like Krillin. Yeah.
But no, like, seriously, you do a phenomenal job as Usopp. I love everybody on the English dub on One Piece.
Okay.
Like, that's the
You shall live then.
Yes.
You saved yourself.
Yeah. Has there been any other shows that the voice actors were actually, handpicked by, the original?
I can't think
creator?
of any. I can't think of any. That's why I say it's the one show that I say if you don't like it, I don't give a shit, because that's what the creator of the series hears, So that's as close as I can get.
So you didn't get to meet him though. You just got a recording.
Oh, I wish we had.
Yeah.
I haven't met any of the Japanese creators.
Wow.
I wish they have been, like, one year, when I was playing Lupin, they had Lupin at the convention, the Japanese Lupin there the year before me. And I was like, oh man, why didn't they think to put us at the same time? That would have been cool. And it would have been awesome to meet him,
I mean, I would want to meet the guy who did the Attack on Titan, because the backstory for him, he was actually, they didn't think he was that good, and then he came out with, because he did a BBC interview, and he got the whole thing by a dream, and he actually wrote it out, and he had no idea it was going to be as big a hit as it is, and I mean, I love that show, and both sub.
That's one of those instant success shows. That thing took off like as soon as it was made. Almost people were like, "Yeah, that's cool."
And it's kind of bridge gaps, kind of like what DBZ did, which I know people who claim that they don't like anime, but then if I bring up Attack on Titan, they can go on days and days.
And you're right, it was like Dragon Ball Z, because I remember back in the day, and people would say, do you like anime? And they say, no. Do you like Dragon Ball Z? Well, I love Dragon Ball Z. That's anime. It is? Yeah. A lot of people thought that was made in this country.
I've heard that too.
Yeah.
All right, so that's my question. So does anyone else do their questions? So thank you, by the way. Yeah, thank you.
Hey, no problem, man.
For you've been such a huge part of my anime shows that, I mean, I watch countless times and I own. So I'm really grateful for all the work that you did and the time that you did to put into it. On both sides.
Well, I'm very I love the fact that you guys are so supportive about this and that you watch it so much. I mean, it is amazing to me that this became a career, I mean, this is just something that was just a blast to do. And then all of a sudden, this is my career, and it's because people like you just really resonated with you. So
we
thank you.
Really appreciate what you do. I mean, it's resonated us because of how all the hard work that you guys have put into you, Jason, even Bloom, like the whole history, everything, like the words can't describe it, honestly.
Well, I
can't describe.
Thank you very much. I'm very honored. Very honored. Thank you.
So are we.
Yeah. All right. So who wants to go next? Should I
go if no one wants to go.
Oh yeah, Trip. Okay. It's like being a school teacher. You got to pick them out.
Yeah.
I was thinking of a number between 1 to 6.
To go next? Raise your hand.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Yeah. Here you go, Trip. Take it away.
Take it away, man.
Okay, Sonny, I have 2 questions. First off, what I'd like to know is, growing up as a child, were there any fictional or cartoon characters that inspired you, such as Tom inspired all of your fellow followers?
Yeah, Mel Blanc really inspired me, the voice actor for Porky Pig, Daffy Duck, Bugs Bunny, Roadrunner. I mean, when I found out that was one guy who did all those voices, I was like, I want to be like that, And my father did a lot of cartoon voices just for fun. He taught me how to do Donald Duck when I was 6 years old. And he used to come home every day and go, "Hi, Sonny." And I watched him do it like with Donald Duck storybook. And I was watching him do it. He did it in Donald Duck's voice. So I said 6. I'm sorry, I was 4. And I went around. I remember walking around the house going until I could get it right. And then he came home and he said, "Hi, Sonny." So after he heard I did that, he was like, "Okay, now let's do Mickey Mouse." And he would teach me to do these different voices. So really, when I started doing voice acting, was as a little kid just to make my parents laugh. But yeah, and Mel Blanc, when I found out he was the one for all those, I was like, okay, that's where I want to take my voices. I want to be able to practice. And I remember, I started doing imitations, and I would make out a list. And I remember I got impressions down to like 100 impressions one time. And I went, okay, cool, I got a solid 100 impressions. I don't know what I was going to do with it, but I had all these voices I could do. And but then at the end, I didn't think it would really be a career, because I lived in Texas. I didn't plan on going to Hollywood where they were making cartoons. So I just figured it was just something I would just dream about. And then I got into theater in high school and college, and my goal was to be a theater professor. So all those dreams of being a cartoon voice actor, they just didn't last. As a matter of fact, I dropped out of college when I started drawing comic books because I got a comic book story published, and stayed away from acting for several years. And then I got back into acting, and Funimation moved to Texas and then opened auditions for Dragon Ball Z, and I landed the part of Krillin. So I just sort of stumbled back in. I was like, wow, I'm doing what I wanted to do as a kid, but I didn't think was possible,
Yeah, that turns out, huh? Wow.
Yeah, it turned out pretty good.
No kidding.
That's awesome. And for my last
question.
question.
Mel Blanc was my inspiration as a kid for voice acting. Mel Blanc and Robin Williams.
Robin.
Yeah.
Man, when he hit the scene with Mork and Mindy, I had to go buy me some rainbow suspenders just like he wore, and went around saying no. And I remember this woman in my neighborhood asked me, she said, if you could have anything you wanted for Christmas, what would it be? And I said, I would like a Mork from Mork spacesuit. So she was a seamstress, and she made me a Mork from Mork spacesuit.
Do you still have it?
No, I wish I had. I had it in my closet for years. I didn't do anything with it. And I was in high school, and my buddy Tom came over, and he goes, what the hell is this? And I went, that's my Mork from Mork spacesuit. And he goes, oh, man, you need to wear that to Mr. Kaiser's math class tomorrow. And I said, okay. And he goes, you're not going to wear that to class. I said, I'm going to wear it to class. So I walked in, and one of the things that Mork used to do is he would sit on his head. So I walked right into the classroom, bold as possible, went to my desk and put my head in the seat and just sat there. And Mr. Kaiser just he had these bug eyes that were always ready to pop out, and he was just like, what is that? And I went, Mark for Mark, no. So he said,
awesome.
He said, go to the office. Go to the principal's office. You think that's so funny? Go to the principal's office. He says, I need some more pads. And while you go up there, hall passes. So go get some more hall passes. And I want you to ask the vice principal what he thinks of your Mork for Mork spacesuit. And I went, okay. And then I walked out with Shazbot. And I walked down the hallway. And I met the vice principal in the hallway. And I said, hey, man, what do you think of my outfit here? And he goes, that's a little too flashy to wear to school. And I went, yeah, I thought so too. I'll go change. And he goes, yeah, probably best. So I changed and got the hall passes and went back to class and sat down, didn't say anything. And Mr. Kaiser's like,
well, yard stare.
Yeah. And I said, well, what? He goes, what did he say? He said it's a little too flashy for school.
Nanu.
Yeah. Nanu. Mark Colligar said, it was so yeah, Robin Williams was a big influence on me. Also Steve Martin, a lot of comedians. I listened to a lot of comedians like George Carlin and even Bill Cosby. Rest in peace. I'm talking about his career. Yeah. Take this pill.
I loved his sweaters though. The ridiculous sweaters, man. Like.
Oh yeah. Well, we all wore those ridiculous sweaters back then. Yeah. I remember that.
But
yeah, he didn't invent that.
Yeah. Oh, dude. He
just invented interesting dating tactics.
Yeah. Oh, I wouldn't say the tactics. They're kind of they're. Yeah.
Oh my God.
It's called rape.
Oh, that was the popsicle.
Yeah. Yeah.
What's weird too is like he was Bill frickin' Cosby. I mean, he was even back in the day. He was the #1 comedian. You know.
Oh, absolutely.
And he was
anything. You could have anything.
And he was a black man who was the #1 comedian, which was really hard back then because the racial structure of this society was so strong in the 70s. And so that he accomplished that he didn't need to do that to get women, you know?
Yeah.
And it's such a blow that he did that. I mean, because so many people looked up to him. It's just sad.
Well, and that show broke huge barriers. I mean, after the whole
Oh, yeah.
First of all, a network would agree to something like that was unheard of.
Yeah.
And then it being popular with white people as well. So it was such a smash hit and unexpected. I mean, you know,
it helped white people see black people in a different way. Because there was still, like, especially in the South, there were so many racists down here for years. And I think that really helped alleviate a lot of that. That and the movie Roots that came out in the 70s. That was a movie about African slaves that were brought over here, and it was really well done. It was written by Alex Haley. And it was a 2-week event, I think, that was on Channel 8, which back then that's all you had on TV. It was like 3 networks, and 8 being the biggest one. And so it aired every day, and we're getting way off topic about anime, but it really opened a lot of eyes because a lot of people didn't realize, you know, what the black community had gone through, you know, when they came to this country. And so after that, people were talking about their own roots, you know. Like I remember asking my dad after I said, well, what about our roots, Dad? Where do we come from? He goes, yeah.
Sorry,
that's all right. Go ahead.
I wanted to ask you something, though, about the comic book thing and the whole self-publishing and whatnot. I mean, we're going to get to that. But do you like that over voice acting more? Or
I wouldn't say overdoing it. I mean, I really like art, you know, in any form. And I'm a person that believes that art in all of its forms comes from the same source. That's why you see a lot of people who are talented in one thing. They're probably talented at several things because it's just talent, and it's just it's whatever you grok to the most, you know. Like I really like drawing, and so I'm going to use the talent that I have in drawing, and you know, other people it's singing or acting or whatever. But if you go to Funimation, first of all, just about everybody there can play guitar. And they have some other interest at their end, you know, that's creative other than just acting. But if I'm acting or directing or writing or drawing comics, to me it's basically all the same. But I do have a thing that I think it's called graphomania, where if I'm not drawing, then I feel like I'm going to go nuts. So I got to draw and get it out. So it's an obsession with me. And I will say this, out of all the things that I do, drawing a comic book is the hardest thing to do. To successfully draw a comic book page takes a lot. I mean, if I was going to do a comic about, say, this conversation right now, I would have to draw a panel first. Probably I'd draw like the background of my room with me holding the phone and all of your faces up here in front of me. And so, first of all, I'd have to draw my room in perspective. I had to learn how to do that. And then I would have to draw you guys. I have to create character designs for every one of your faces and put them in there. And then this is still just panel 1, right?
Yeah.
And most comic book pages are about 5-6 panels. So by the time you finish drawing a 10-page mini comic, you've given yourself a full semester of knowledge. And that's why I say to anybody who wants to learn how to draw, try drawing a comic book because it will teach you a lot. You may not want to be a cartoonist after that because you realize how hard it is, but you will be a better artist for it.
For me,
I think out of all the things, I get the most pride from drawing, a successful drawing. But at the same time, I'm really proud about my acting and directing stuff too.
Yeah.
So
interesting.
Okay. Ready for the last question, Sonny?
Yeah.
Okay. This question came to me throughout this conversation, and you spoke of your history of theater in high school, college, and also of directing. So this is just kind of a random one, but could you ever see anime in theater in the future? Imagine Full Metal Alchemist.
I would be really surprised if it hasn't happened already. If there's not some live action version of anime going on, I'm really surprised because first of all, it is happening. If you go to any convention and you see the cosplay contests, they're acting it out on stage all the time in full costume. But to see a full production, say, of Dragon Ball Z, on stage, yeah, I can see that happening. Maybe even on ice.
that would be
Oh,
nice.
wow. On ice.
Yeah, Kamehameha or whatever on ice. That would be.
Yeah.
I'd love to see that. Or Destructo Disc. So.
Yeah, the Destructo Disc.
Yeah.
Where he spins around in a circle over and over again.
And the person runs away somehow controlling it with his hands. So.
Yeah. Let's hope if anime goes to a theatrical venue, it's nothing that cheesy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think Naruto's doing one. A
Oh,
little
no,
while
Yeah,
back.
I heard that.
Yeah,
And it looked really good. Like the costume design looked really good. I'm not sure about
It's
the rest
hard.
of it.
It's hard these days if you think of an idea that it hasn't been done already. You know. So when you said that, I went, "That's such a good idea. Somebody's doing it. It has to happen."
Yeah.
The problem I see with the live actions, which is my big complaint, is, for instance, when I watch an anime, I get used to that image of that character, that voice, seeing that effect, and then when you go to the live action, I mean, just for the example of Attack on Titan, they switched out characters. They don't look the same, and then the effects, you can never get the same effects than you can do in
Well,
an
that's
anime.
the thing too. It's almost with anime, you get like an instant nostalgia. You know, like nowadays we're doing the broadcast dubs, and thank God for that, because people don't have time to get hooked on a voice that's Japanese, because we're coming in right behind them.
Yeah.
Assassination Classroom. I think we just did that like a few weeks behind the original, and I play Koro Sensei in that, and that is such a cool role, and I'm glad that I got to do it so quickly because. But even then, the people they'd heard the Japanese first, and they went, "Oh, it's got to sound like that," you know. And you can't do it exactly like someone else. You have to make it your own, or it's going to fall flat. Even the closest one I do is Usopp to the original, and even then, I have to make it my own.
Yeah, but
because if it doesn't.
So for Usopp, so because
not the Japanese.
Oh no, yeah.
People get hooked on the original Japanese.
Yeah.
Because they hear it first and they're like, well, you don't sound as good as that, you know, and you can't sound like them. I quit speaking about theater, which we were talking about earlier. There's a play called Harvey. It was made into a movie it was a Jimmy Stewart movie where he thought he saw a giant rabbit who was invisible, and Jimmy Stewart had a certain way of speaking. Or something like this, right? And I have seen productions of Harvey on stage where people just try to talk like Jimmy Stewart, and it was embarrassing. You know, it's like if you're going to do this part, you've got to make it your own. If you don't, it's going to be stupid, or it's just going to be very flat.
Yeah,
cheap.
With Funimation, how they do that with the live streaming, and most of the time it's sometimes just 1 week. I mean, it's 1 week after the sub comes out, and it's. I mean, just that actually, I really enjoy.
Subscribe now.
Yeah. Oh, I am subscribing. So, but
I know you are. I can tell.
Yeah, but it's just that is just one of the things where I mean I like both, but sometimes you can pick a sub over a dub and be like, that's what I think, regardless of if you see it first. But the dubs have now gotten, I mean, a lot better. I mean, for instance, the one that I was a strong dub fan was Yu Yu Hakusho, and I cannot watch.
Yes.
I cannot watch the sub version. I watched as a child. It's imprinted on me. You know,
but that's because you saw the dub first.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm saying. Anime is one of those things that really gets an instant nostalgia. As soon as you watch it, as soon as you determine I like this show, then you can't hear another cast do it.
Yeah, I will.
And that's why so many these sub fans will not give the dubs a chance because they already hooked on the original.
Right.
And I understand it because I like there was an anime I watched. I just picked it up at Blockbuster many years ago. It was called Project Echo, and I thought, oh, this is a kind of a cool show. And I really liked the Japanese cast, and I liked the way they acted. And then I heard a dub years later. It was horrible, and I was just like, "This is nowhere near. You don't have the heart of the original, you know."
Well, see, I think the dubs have been getting a lot better, though. I mean, before
That's true.
I was a staunch sub fan, but now, I mean, the dubs are just as good. And
We've gotten better.
Yeah,
I've seen us get a lot better with dubs. The first season of Dragon Ball Z, I'm embarrassed to watch. You know, we've come a long, long way.
I mean,
Yeah.
And at the time, I remember listening to it and going, "Oh, that sounds all right." And I listened to it like even just 3 years later. I was like, "Oh God, we came a long way in 3 years."
What do you think?
And now it's been.
What do you think has
What?
changed? Though? What changed?
Well, first of all, everybody at Funimation. Well, also it was a different period. We had a different director. We had a guy directing who'd never done any kind of acting or theater or anything. But he became a producer, and Chris Sabat was brought up to being a director. I credit Chris Sabat a lot for our first major achievement of quality at Funimation, because, like I said, he said, let's try to make this sound prelay instead of like dubbed. And so that was like an interesting philosophy at the time. So we're like, oh, okay, so we got to try to make it sound as real as possible, you know. And also it was getting used to matching mouth flaps, you know, and to be able to speak. I remember when it really started clicking for me was the scene where Krillin has that device to shut down the androids, and he doesn't know whether to push the button or not. He's got this existential moment of angst, and all of that was done mentally. He had this long monologue about it, and so I had a moment to really just act, you know, and I could play this character exactly the way I wanted to without trying to match a mouth flap. So once I did that, I was like, I want to try to sound that way all the time, you know, and that started really clicking with me too. So a lot of it had to do with just practice, you know, because after a while things are going to start clicking. And then also once you start making stuff that has a higher standard, then you try to top it. And since Funimation has been there 17 years, every year we try to get better, we try new things, and so yeah, of course the quality is going to go way up.
Yeah, the fans.
It wasn't established as an industry either. You know, dubs were done, but they were done here and there. You know, so they didn't have a house that had that kind of sustained production. And that kind of production that's gone on for that long is going to create a higher quality.
Or that kind of commitment to it, to making it authentic. Would you say?
I think that's definitely part of it. But let's say that Funimation only had one show that lasts for 2 years, and then the next anime came out. Say next big anime was 6 years later from another company. Well, you don't have enough time to develop the quality, you know. But now, and also hearing the quality and watching the quality of it, I think created a new generation that had different expectations. Like the actors coming up now that we're getting are so good, you know, and we have so many of them. And I think it's because we started in a certain level, but we started improving, and they heard that improvement in their heads. So they knew if they were auditioning for Funimation, they had to be on a certain level. So they had to get there somehow. And anytime you give anybody, a human being, a goal and say, okay, well, this is as far as you got to be at least this far, they're going to find a way to get there if they want it.
Absolutely.
And I'm blown away at some of the talent that we got here today. As a matter of fact, I always tell people, if you're still working at Funimation, you must have something, because we have so much talent to pull from now.
Is the turnover fast there? I mean, can you like tell if like they don't have it or the dedication wanes? Like, is there?
Well, you see a lot of people come and go, but the people that stick around and you can. It's like for me, it's pretty easy. I can hear a talent right away. I know if you got it or not. And if you've got it, I'm going to try to use you somehow. Like I just did what's called a bit part session the other day. It was actually yesterday. And that's where you just do these little small parts, and you do what's called walla, which you try to make a sound of groups and stuff like that. Well, in the old days when I used to direct, those used to be the hackiest actors we had, or at least the greenest ones, right? And sometimes you would have like people who were pretty good acting next to somebody's mother from accounting, you know?
Okay.
But now the standards have gone so high that every guy, I had like 5 guys come in, no, 6 guys, and they were all good, and I had never heard of any of them. And they said, I'm going to keep you guys' names on file because I want you to audition for my next show because you're really good. So that's now when we do bit part sessions, that is a way for us to try out new talent. And so I'm always casting people from bit parts into bigger roles. I'm like, oh, you sounded really good for that. Let's try you on a bigger part.
That's really interesting.
But it's like a talent mill there, you know. It's like we're bringing in talent and we're using it up and grinding it out and seeing what we can, you know. You're really used at Funimation. I mean, I see people walking. I mean, I'll be walking the hallways of Funimation. I'll see somebody sitting on a couch who's a brilliant actor and director writing a script for something, and it's like the talent. If you've got talent, we'll use it.
And it seems like Funimation has figured out, you know, and raised the professionalism where they figured out what to do, the winning kind of recipe in a sense, you know, and the process, that the caliber and just the putting people in the right roles and utilizing.
Well,
them
I will credit the next level of quality came from Justin Cook. Justin did a show called Fruits Basket. He also did Yu Yu Hakusho, as you like. But he directed a show called Fruits Basket. And in that one, he decided that he was not going to do what we usually do, which is Americanize everything.
Yeah.
He said, this is a very Japanese show. I'm going to make this very tonal, very Japanese in tone. And I remember at the time, we all thought he was kind of nuts because we come in and record, and it was like, you want us to read it how? But then the end product was fantastic. But I remember being called into a meeting, and it was a meeting of directors, and Justin wasn't there. And the reason he wasn't there is because it was about him. And they were saying, okay, the way he did Fruits Basket is the way we're not going to do it. We're here to Americanize cartoons from Japan. And so we went, oh, okay. And then it wasn't, I think maybe 2 weeks later, maybe I'm remembering it wrong, but it might have been 2 months. But it was very shortly after that, the reviews for Fruits Basket came out, and everyone loved it. And I think it was like a year later they decided to make Justin a producer because they figured he knew what he was doing. And when Justin took over as producer, everything changed at Funimation because he had been an actor, a director, and even an engineer. He started out as an engineer just pushing buttons on Pro Tools. So he knew this business top to bottom, and he knew what was required to make a good show. So it was like, before we were kind of just like commodities into a machine, you know. And when he took over, we were respected. And he, like I said, he put a lot of trust in my actors. He put a lot of trust in all of us as directors and everything. So it was, he was very encouraging. He was there to help you in any way to develop a show. And it was really a nurturing kind of environment. And it's grown from that example, I think, into a big nurturing environment. If you need help on anything, it's easy to get it. You just go to your producer, and their doors are always open, literally open. The door's just wide open. You just walk in and go, "Hey, I've got to figure this out," and they're okay. Let's look it up and see if we can help you out. It's a completely different thing than when I started there.
Wow,
that is awesome.
Yeah, that's amazing, especially how big it is. How big Funimation is, yet they kept like the small kind of close-knit community, and that's very hard, especially when a lot of money comes in. You get big shows and everything, so you know. Yeah,
there's a lot riding on it, and yet they still trust that it's going to work out right. I mean, you think that's going to drop any day now, you know?
Oh, the thing is,
because it's like, it's the bigger the shows we get, but we just did a multi-million-dollar movie, and we just did it the same old way we do everything else, you know?
Well, I think the fans can, like what you were saying about Americanized, I think all of us can tell, and we're like, well, we don't watch anime to, you know, watch Scooby-Doo. Like, there's a clear difference between American and Japanese, and you watch anime for that.
But you'll find now is that there's a much greater respect for the original Japanese source material. And you'll find that in any of the companies now, because that we've seen firsthand that a show that's #1 in Japan can easily be number one across the planet.
Yeah.
And so it's good. You don't have to change the source material to make it good. It's kind of like when Hollywood gets a superhero movie right, it's because they stick very close to the comic books. When they stray, they start sucking.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Brotherhood.
So that's one thing you'll find at Funimation. We have a lot of respect. As a matter of fact, we have like debates about how we should pronounce names and should we keep the names consistent. Like if we use this name in one show, should it be pronounced exactly the same in another show? I mean, the answer is still up in the air about that, but these are the conversations we have because we do have a great respect for the source material.
Mm-hmm. And the fans. I mean, I think it's also like the fans because when it comes down to it, I mean, we're watching the subbed and the dubbed most of the time. Mm-hmm. So and it's one of those things where you do it for the fans and you're trying to do it in English kind of, but then
and sometimes we do we'll change something like it just would be funnier to Americans if we said this instead of that, or sometimes things don't translate well. Like we don't say senpai and things like that to people.
Oh, God,
we would call them by their name, right?
I don't like that.
Yeah, so it doesn't translate well.
It's funny when you say it as a joke.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you, senpai.
Sonny senpai.
That's Sonny Sama to you.
Yeah, the culture is so different with the honor fixes and knowing your social standing and the hierarchy that, I mean, saying their name, actually their real name, is actually very personal. I mean, it goes to level
and this is
girlfriend and family-ish. So this
is where the respect for the source material comes in too, because in some shows it is a very Japanese show in tone, so you're going to want to use those because you want to get the feeling that this is Japan. But there's so many shows that are set in fantasy worlds, or even like some are set in the United States.
Attack on Titan is in a more Germanish area, so
right. So those things, it's not so important to stick to those honorary titles and things like that. It's more important to have something that means basically the same thing here. You have to equate it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, Krillin. What was the inspiration for that voice for Krillin?
Well, I had read the manga, and actually when I first got the part, the voice they wanted me to use was Terry Clausen's voice that he used in Canada. I don't know if you guys remember, but the first season was recorded by Ocean. You there?
The Ocean Group. Yeah, Ocean Dub.
Yeah. Oh, there you go. Ocean Group. And so they wanted me to try to sound as much like him as possible. And the original, his voice was like, hey, something like this. Hey, guys, wait up. Yeah! And the first week I was doing that, the director said, that sounds just like Terry Clausen. But I hate that voice.
Yeah, cut that shit out.
And I'm like, well, great. What do I do? And he said, at first I thought he was going to fire me.
Oh my God.
And I said, I can do other voices. And he goes, yeah, I know you can. We heard you in your auditions. We heard you do all these different voices. He said, well, and he has a big, thick Texas accent, and he had no political correctness at all. But he said, Krillin's a midget, but he's the world's strongest human being. And I said, okay. So you want like a tough midget? And he goes, yeah. And I said, what about like Popeye on helium? And he goes, what would that sound like? And I went, I don't know, something like this. Come on, guys, let's go. And he went, yeah, use that.
Popeye on helium.
So that's how it came about? That's how Krillin's voice was kind of
Well, that was the start of it. It was just basically Popeye on helium. And then I went into Gen's office, and Gen had all the Dragon Ball Zs on a shelf, and I went, oh, man, can I borrow those? I would like to use it as a research. And he said, yeah, you're the voice of Krillin. Go ahead. Yeah. So I took them home, and I read them, And you know when you read a comic book, you got a voice in your head how it should sound?
Yes, any book.
So then that's when I started really connecting with it. I was like, okay, I see who this guy is, yeah. And also his face. Like, a lot of people say, like, why do you do these funny voices for these characters? And I don't do funny voices for characters. I do what I think is a realistic voice for that person. Like, anyone who's that small is going to have that kind of pinched voice, and also is going to have, with no nose, it's going to sound kind of, stuffed up.
Yeah.
So you got to go there. So I usually start with the face and try to come up with a voice that matches that face.
I'm
I just played Andre on Prison School. Have you guys seen the Prison Schools yet?
I have not.
Subscribe.
I have it in my queue, so.
We'll try
Andre is this freak of nature. He's got this huge head, about 4 times the size of a normal head.
Is that the
and
yellow
his
guy?
face?
Is that the yellow guy? Is that the yellow guy, dude? The creepy guy?
I don't think he's yellow.
The guy with the long ears, right?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, I guess he is kind of jaundiced. But he's got this tiny little face on this big head.
Yes.
So I'll talk like this when I do his voice, because anyone who has a head that's that big and a tiny little esophagus is going to have trouble, and he breathes a lot too, so he talks through a lot of breath.
And people said, hey, why are you trying to make Andre Smeagol and stuff? I said, no, I'm not. I'm starting with this physicality and
working with it. Oh my God.
But he does kind of sound like, I think he sounds like a really fat Stitch.
Yeah. Did you end up using that for the Space Dandy alien? The one with the blue one?
There was very close to that, I think.
Yeah.
Undies.
Yeah. I loved that episode about how frivolous it was about undies and the t-shirt things, and they both had boots. And oh goodness, and that was
a fun thing to do, that crazy alien, because he would talk about a real cartoon character like the cartoons I watched. That was definitely one of those kind of characters.
Especially like the frivolousness of it. I mean, that Space Dandy. I mean, I think that brought, and especially because Toonami got it, it brought a whole aspect of, because I didn't know about animes like that, and I became like an instant fan. I mean, the talking book, the talking plants, I mean, the aliens and everything, and the fact that he's never caught a damn alien, but that is his job, and he always gets sidetracked. And
Ian Sinclair's performance, I love that kid so much. He's an amazing actor. I can't announce his show yet, but we did a show over the summer together, and I gave him the lead-in. And it was originally, I thought, this character is kind of Lupin the 30, And I thought, I didn't hear anyone at the audition who I thought could do better than myself. So I was like, I'm just going to do it. I'm going to cast myself. And I told the producer that, and he goes, what about Ian Sinclair? And I went, because I hadn't heard his Space Dandy. I had heard other things. I said, well, can he do this kind of character? He goes, get a YouTube Space Dandy.
Yes.
And he YouTube Space Dandy. I heard him say 2 sentences, and I said, "Is he available?" And he said, "I'll check." And he does this part so much better than I would have done it. And he gives it a different kind of goofy humanity, and I love it. I use him about as much as I can in every show I do when I can, because he's just one of those talents that I relate to,
I'm just curious, after watching Space Dandy, how would you do your impression of Space Dandy, just out of curiosity? If you were going to audition for Space Dandy again.
Boobies.
I would never audition for Space Dandy. No.
Oh my God.
But no. What I'm saying is that the show we did is not Space Dandy.
Okay.
No, I don't have an impression of Space Dandy.
Worth a shot.
The Space Dandy voice, the voice actor.
It's kind of an Elvis voice.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? But it's so Ian.
And it's a dandy guy in space. I mean, his voice is so. I mean, I can tell when he's in an anime just by his voice. Yeah. Like it's just I don't know why, but his voice is very, very distinct, and it matches most of the characters that he plays. So,
and he can play those pretty boy characters too. And we were talking about that the other day on a DVD extra about characters you play that causes the fangirls to squee, you know?
Oh goodness.
And he said, yeah, I play some shows that characters that they've shipped, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And I generally don't get that. I mean, but I did play in an Ian show. The first show he directed at Funimation was Black Butler.
Yeah.
And I played Drossel Kynes, that little puppet master who sang London Bridge all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the one thing that the girls freak out about at conventions. And if I find that the girl is a fan of that show, I'll say, come here. And I'll get up close and I go, London Bridge is falling down, falling down. And then they freak out. They just go,
Oh my goodness! Oh my goodness!
PG guys, PG.
You're way too young to think of me that way. Go on.
Oh my!
That's amazing though. I mean, you know, I just find that to be. I mean, the effect of it. You know, it's kind of people really take that stuff. I mean, and I mean, if I met one of my characters and, you know, that I really like and said that. I mean, sometimes you.
Oh, it's fun. I mean, it's especially Krillin. They pull out the Krillin card. I had some neighbors across the street were having a yard sale, and one of them had heard that I was the voice of Krillin, right? And they said, "No, you're not." And so I said, "Yeah, I am. Kamehameha, baby." And one girl screamed and ran into the house and slammed the door. It was like spooked her.
What about your daughter? I mean, does she watch anime? Does she get into it? Does she find it cool that her dad does this, or does she find it nerdy?
I think she thinks it's cool that I do it. She's not much into it though. I mean, she's into some anime. She really loved Fruits Basket, and she likes some manga. Mm-hmm. Like she liked, what was that Korean manga she really liked? Snowdrop or something.
Korean manga is a little different.
Yeah, but she's not like this huge fan of anime and everything, which is probably good because it'd be kind of obnoxious to come home to.
Yeah.
Right.
Well,
hey, Sonny.
Yeah.
When can we expect your new show you were talking about, the one with Ian Sinclair, if you can release any of that information?
I have no idea. I do know that we're doing final mixes right now, which usually means we're about 3 to 4 months out.
Okay.
Sweet.
So spring. So spring. Basically.
Yeah, if I would hazard a guess, I would say probably May or June.
Would it be on the Funimation Subscribe by any chance? So should I be looking for it?
Can't tell you.
Sonny pleads the fifth.
Yeah, dude, because you guys had so many new shows. I mean, some of the shows just come out like on Crunchyroll, and I'm like, I go and I talk to their Twitter thing, and I'm like, dude, you guys got this show already? I was like, I love you guys, like, because they
really hard to believe, right?
Cool would be one of those examples.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. It's amazing to me how fast we can get these things out now. You know, the production time is still the same basically, but the getting it packaged and on the air, or getting for approval from Japan and getting started on it, that's changed a lot. I mean, I remember in the old days, we were a couple of years behind, sometimes more, from the Japanese, and now we're like right afterwards. Yes. Right after they come out, we're out.
It went from the Evangelion problem of years to get, I mean, the new movie, it was supposed to come out in 2014, and it switched to TBA, to be announced, and that is like a shot in the heart for anyone who's waiting. And now,
I think the internet's helped that a lot too, because first of all, there's a lot more venues that we can put it out on, but also it's easier to communicate. It's easier to communicate with other countries now than it used to be. You know, I mean, in the old days, you had to pay long distance charges for phone calls, and so you just had meetings every now and then when it was convenient for all parties involved. Now you can just send out an email.
Yeah.
Has the? I mean, we had emails then, but you know, it wasn't quite the same.
Oh, has the approval
AOL.
process? Yeah, AOL back then, the dial-up tone.
Oh, yeah, that's true, too.
Yeah.
You had to wait for the computer to connect.
Yeah, the AOL thing.
So when you guys go and try to get a show, is the approval process, I mean, I'm guessing because now, like, there is a fan base, and the talent of basically dubbing it has increased tremendously, that the approval probably would go faster, and I mean maybe there's some competition involved, but the fans will still get it in a sense. The approval, they know that there's a market here and that there's,
well, now we have our own fans,
Yeah, absolutely.
It's so that this one show I'm doing right now that I can't tell you.
Keep on
I
mentioning.
knew it had such a strong fan base already that everybody I cast in there has played a lead role in some show. Mm-hmm. They all have their own followings because I wanted to be able to compete with a fan base that's already there.
Yeah,
that was a strategy.
Funimation also has a fan base as well. I mean,
yeah,
and that's something else where you're playing to, of course, the show's fan base, but like for me, you stumble upon it and say this looks cool, and I love Funimation, so you watch it and then you get hooked, and that's something that because of all the amount you can get it.
But there are new anime fans coming along every day, so we want to keep reaching out and grabbing new people.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Phantom, are you still there? You want to continue your questions list?
Yes. Yeah.
If you have any more, of course.
Yeah. Going back to Toonami, man. I feel I'm working on a retrospective on Toonami right now. So, how was it like to voice Tom back in the day?
That was a pretty exciting thing because when I first took on the role of Krillin, that was the only show I was on, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't take it seriously as a job. I just thought it was something fun to do. But as I told you, the Toonami people really liked what I did with Krillin and asked me to audition. I think they auditioned like all of the animation houses they worked with. And from ours, they asked Linda Chambers, who played Frieza at the time, and Chris Sabat and me to audition. So when I got that part, it was like, wow, suddenly I'm making $400 an hour, Granted, it was only 1 hour at a time, but still, it was just like, I can live off of this. And that was the first time I was able to live off of acting solely. And so that was really cool in and of itself, and I realized this might be a career. But also, he was so cool the way he was done and the way he would talk to the kids, not down to them, but still talk to them on their level and talk to them about, things that they needed to hear, like having courage and things like that. And,
we all been
the importance
before.
of experience,
Well, and the bullying thing where, most of the time when you're bullied, I mean, I've been bullied. And I know a lot of people have too. And you don't tell
Well, most anime fans have.
But you don't tell people that. So, to have, to be watching Toonami kind of like relaxing after school and getting that, it leaves an imprint. And they still do it today. I mean,
especially today.
I mean, so after the SAO thing, the Sword Online thing, we actually played it. So it's one of those things where it's kind of the timeless things. And, like, I think that the first Tom kind of started that, and it's just been carried on kind of like a tradition.
It's been like a tradition thing that come over, but it's...
And that was the first time I really realized that I was talking to the nation, because people would tell me they were running home from school. Like a lot of them were skipping 6th period so that they could get home in time, because I think we started at 3 o'clock.
Right. Yep.
Pretty much.
And so they had to get home in time to see what was going on, and I was like, wow, this is cool. I mean, I've really got the nation's kids' ears right now.
And no TiVo. No TiVo.
No, you had to watch it then. You were going to miss it if you didn't catch it.
Yeah.
Yep.
So it was something to be really proud of at the time. It was like I've got the ear of the nation, and that was a really cool thing to have.
Mm-hmm.
How about that? So for Intruder 1.
The beginning of the end.
A soft spot, maybe a little bit.
I can tell you guys
why
that had to happen, and the real reason that went down.
Please do. Please do.
Yeah,
that was my question anyway.
At the time, we use a digital patch system so that I could hear the people in Georgia, hear Jason in Atlanta, Well, I was in Dallas. Now, at the time, the internet was still kind of young. There was only one studio in Dallas that had a digital patch system that we could find. And it took them an hour to set it up. Now, at first, they were really good about it. They would set it up before I got there. Now, I was getting paid $400 an hour. But after a while, they started getting lazy, and they would wait until I showed up to start setting up. Oh. So here I am waiting with the director waiting, and we're sitting there for an hour, 2 hours, sometimes like an hour and a half, and eventually they couldn't do this anymore. So they had to go to somebody who was in a place like California where they were a little bit more cutting edge technology-wise and get somebody else. Now, they got Steve Bloom, and they must have told him to try to sound as close to me as possible because the first time I heard him record, I thought it was me. I was like,
that's believable.
Whoa, I don't remember recording for the new character. And then I realized, and then it hit me, it was like, that's not me. That's someone doing an impression of me. And Toonami Tom 1 was so close to my regular voice that it was just amazing to hear somebody do an impression of me. But then I think, like any smart actor, he made it his own and did it pretty quickly. And I thought he did a tremendous job with the character, and I think he gave it a lot of respect. And I have a lot of people say, "Are you mad at him for?" I was like, "No, I thought he did a great job." And then somebody said, "When they brought Toonami back, people were saying, do you think they'll get you to do it?" And I went, "If they do, that'd be a real slap in the face to Steve, who's done a tremendous job with it for so many years." You know,
working hard.
He did an amazing job with it.
But you ended up trying to kill his character anyway.
Do what?
But then you ended up trying to kill his character anyway.
That's him. He made it his own, and did a tremendous job with it. And he's such a great guy too. I remember one time I got in the mail at Funimation. I thought it was a fan thing because we get a lot of those, but it was a big package, and it was from Steve Bloom to me. And what it was these postcards from the original Toonami Tom postcards for promotional materials. Mm-hmm. They had given it to him, and he said, well, Sonny was the original. I'm going to give it to him. So he just gave them to me.
Of him.
Yeah. And I give them out to charities and stuff like that because they're very rare. But yeah, that was really cool that he gave me those.
What is your feelings on Sarah having been the first Tom and with Sarah and everything? Did you enjoy having like a like the AI kind of thing? Did you find
someone to talk to?
Yeah, someone to talk to up in space.
I thought that was. I thought it made it much more interesting. I think it probably would have been a boring show if he didn't have somebody to bounce off of. Mm-hmm. Because then it would just be him doing lectures and stuff, which were cool. But I think to give it a real storyline or a through line, you have to have more than one character. Yeah. And so, yeah, she's definitely a necessary component to make Toonami work.
Oh, and she's dead the now. AI. Yeah, but she's like the AI, which when I was a kid, we were like, oh shit, like I want one of those. You know what I mean? Like, because it's like a thinking computer and has a personality. And
But what is Tom? Tom's a thinking computer as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, but she isn't really a computer. She's kind of like a
artificial intelligence.
Yeah, that's
it. Sarah, you could argue Sarah was the first Cortana from Halo.
Yeah. That's true.
Definitely no Ultron, that's for sure.
Yeah, that's why Moltar failed. He didn't have an AI to talk to.
Probably.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So,
unless you want a Space Ghost or a Zorak to bounce off.
Hey, why are you reviewing that Final Fantasy game?
Zorak?
So,
Space Ghost!
Of all the characters that you have played, what is like your favorite archetype? Like to perform?
Oh,
like
I like any character. I like a character that goes through redemption. The redemption stories to me are the most powerful ones. Like Vegeta is like definitely one of my favorite characters from Dragon Ball Z because he really changes the most. Krillin, well, he has a lot of things happen to him. As a human being, at his center, he has always been the same. I mean, you go back to he hasn't changed much since he was a little kid.
No.
But Vegeta changed a lot, and I love stories like that where people, because it gives hope, you know.
Yeah.
And I played Bardock as well, and that's a redemption story, and I love playing that movie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
One of my favorites.
When you were going through and doing auditions, what character did you audition for that you really did enjoy and like, but you ended up didn't getting it and being passed up?
I know I was a contender for Goku, actually, but I'm glad I got Krillin because I think I could relate to Krillin better. And I think that I think if I'm looking at my strengths as an actor, I can bring a certain amount of humanity to a funny voice. You know, something that sounds that people might just dismiss as goofy. I can give it a certain kind of humanity, and I don't know why. This is one of the things I do. So I'm glad I got Krillin. Generally, I've been pretty lucky and got the parts that I really wanted. I mean, I really wanted Usopp, and I really wanted Mace Hughes. Probably the only show I didn't get a part I really wanted was on Sergeant Frog. I would have taken any of the leads on that one. That was a fun show.
Now, because your involvement with doing voices for video games, what is the major differences that you said? Like, I know between them, I know you talked about the lip movement and matching that, but is there any other things that kind of make it difficult?
The major difference between anime and video games is you get paid a whole lot more money to do video games. Video games is sweet money, but also there is a difference when you're doing a video game because generally you're the first person to do it. So you get to set the pace for it, and you get to set the standard, and they're animating to you, which is really cool. Like I played Splosion Man, and they just let me go nuts, you know. And so that's a cool element, though. I mean, I say it's easier to act for me now when I look at animation, but that challenge of creating something whole cloth is thrilling. So that's what I get to do with video games.
Interesting. So when the
recall.
Keep going, man.
Yeah, keep going.
I was just saying I was just recalling Christopher Sabat did a character from Metro Prime.
I've done several video games, and mostly from Chris Sabat's studio, actually.
Well,
he's got his own studio called Okratron 5000, and some of the biggest gaming companies have gone through him. Yeah.
Do you play any games that you actually are in by any chance?
I played Krillin once in Budokai.
Budokai is my shit, man. I love that game.
But no, I don't. You know, if they gave us some swag, I might be tempted to.
Yeah. But
I never went out of my way to go buy these games. And also, I don't play a lot of video games. I don't have time. Right now I'm a colorist for Dark Horse. I'm coloring Elf Quest for them, which is a series I actually drew back in 2001.
Yeah.
And they brought back the creator of the series to draw the last quest, the final quest. And they asked her, they wanted to put out every other month. And she said, I can put out a book every other month, but I won't be able to color it. I don't have time to do that. And they said, do you have a colorist in mind? She goes, yeah. And she's asked me if I would do it. And I said, hell yeah. But I just don't have time. As a colorist and a director and an actor, I have very little time to play video games. I did play, last video game I really got hooked on, and this is how long it's been, was City of Heroes.
Oh,
wow. The servers are down. They're dead.
Yeah, I felt bad for that because I have memories sometimes of places I've been, and I'm like, it's like this nostalgia feeling. I said, where was that? And I went, oh, that was in Paragon City or something. That was in that video game I played. But I really, I think I got it. Oh, I know why I got it. Because I was, Tokyo Pop signed me to do a graphic novel. And it took us 6 months to negotiate that contract. So I had a lot of downtime while I was negotiating that contract. So I started playing this game just to kill time. And I got so hooked on it. when we finally signed the contract, I took it out of my computer because I knew I just didn't have time to mess with that.
It would be dangerous to have that kind of thing.
I knew that this comic book was going to take so much of my time as it was, so I better not play it. I did play for a while because a friend of mine got me into it. It was Wizard 101. Which is a similar game.
Yeah, they said they said you can like play with your kids or something. I think that's
you can have fun with it, and it's still a kids game at the same time, but it's also a good card game, and it's a strategy game as well. And you can so it's kind of like playing Magic the Gathering, but it's an MMO kind of thing, you know.
Now referring
trust in the heart of the cards.
Referring back to your comment and doing and illustrating, how did you get into comics? Like, what was the path to actually getting into it and kind of liking it as well as in the business of it? Because you talked about the ElfQuest thing, where you got into it.
Right. Well, I was a fan of ElfQuest when I was in high school. I never thought I'd end up drawing it someday, but I was not taking it seriously. I drew for my school newspaper. I drew comic strips and stuff, and even in college for a bit too. But there was a guy in Denton, Texas, where I was going to school, who worked at a local comic book shop, and he made his own comics. And they were little mini comics, 8.5 by 11 sheets of paper folded over and stapled together. And the book was called The Sex Gophers from Hell. And I thought it was like the funniest thing I'd read. And so I gave him fan art of the characters. And he looked at that and he goes, dude, you need to draw this comic. And I'd never drawn a comic book before, but I thought that would be a fun thing to do. And why not? Because I could draw better than him. So I did a 10-page story for him. And that was so much fun for me. And I realized I learned so much from page 1 to page 10 that it was like light years of improvement. So I thought, well, I'll do another 10-page story, and that was light years improvement from those 10. And then I did another one, and I realized I'm just getting better and better at this, and I started getting really hooked on the art form itself. Well, we produced several of these, and we started getting known in town as the Sex Gopher guys. People would be, you do the Sex Gophers? And they would buy us drinks and stuff. I remember one time we were invited to a party because the guy who lived there wanted us to draw the Sex Gophers on his closet door. So we did that, and it was kind of cool because we kind of like became local celebrities, you know. And then we did a short story for Antarctic Press, and they published it. And once I got published, I said, okay, forget school. I dropped out of college, and I focused on making comics. And I did that for a while. We actually self-published our own series called Mr. Average.
I was going to ask about that, of why did you choose to go self-publishing route? So
because my heroes in the comic fields were always self-publishers. Like ElfQuest, for one, that was a self-published book. There was a self-published book that was so successful that at one time it was outselling X-Men. And this book... Yeah, it has been published by Marvel, DC, and now Dark Horse, and the creators of the series, they still own the rights to it. That's unheard of.
Yeah.
They did some really smart negotiating.
No buyout or anything. They kept
No, just a limited run. You've got us for 5 years. Let's see what we can do. Mm-hmm. And so them, and also Dave Sim, who did a book called Cerebus, who was an independent publisher. Let's see, God, tons of independent artists, and I like a lot of underground cartoonists too, like Peter Bagg, who did a book called Hate, which is a really well done book about just slice of life kind of stuff that was going on in Seattle during the 90s, what it was like to be in your 20s in the 90s. But all these things, I liked superhero books, and I still do. But I related more to the underground.
So it's one of those things where you actually kind of admired it, so to speak?
Yeah. Robert Crumb being another self-publisher I really admired. He did a lot of more like hippie comics and stuff like that in the 70s. A lot of drug-inspired comics as well. Mm-hmm. And not that I'm a drug addict or anything. I don't do a lot of drugs. Hardly any because I'm a lightweight. Good. But still, I love the creativity that came from that, you know, and the willingness to put so much of yourself in there that you're going to go into the depths of your id and express that and turn comics into a high art, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So
I mean,
and another thing I've noticed about your independent comic book artist, unlike, like, if I draw Superman, you'll go, oh, that's an interesting drawing of Superman by Sonny, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if I draw ElfQuest, that is going to be under so much scrutiny because people relate independent comics to the artist much more strongly than superheroes. Superheroes are more of a brand, you know, and it's whoever is drawing it that day can pretty much, you can, even Mad Magazine can do it, and you go, okay, that's Superman. Mm-hmm. But if anyone else besides Wendy Pini draws ElfQuest, it's under high scrutiny. Now, even that being said, I was named one of the top 5 non-Wendy cartoonists for ElfQuest. But even then, I look at it and go, I'd rather have Wendy drawing it than myself.
I mean, aren't you writing a biography about her, the person?
Yeah, I wrote a biography called "The Line of Beauty: The Art of Wendy Pini," which started out to be like just, you know, my writing on it, and it's grown into this monster book that's including my book and other people's comments as well. It's going through a major publisher now, and I think they just did a Kickstarter as well that went way over what they had planned on. So it looks like it's going to happen pretty soon.
Are you excited about that, or like are you?
Yeah,
is
that was an interesting challenge for me because I'd never written anything like that. I've written comic books and I've written scripts for anime, and but they had asked me because I was Wendy's apprentice. When it was kind of interesting the way I met Wendy Pini and her husband Richard. I was at a signing at Comic-Con for Dragon Ball Z, and hang on a second. Yeah.
Welcome back.
Yeah, my phone just completely died, and I realized, we've been talking for 3 hours.
Oh man,
time flies.
It's all good.
We're probably going to have to wrap this up soon, but we want to focus a little bit more on the comic book thing. Before one of our member leaves, he wants to know what medium you kind of prefer. And, I mean, I think it's very varied, I'm guessing, but when you do it.
Yeah.
Like as a colorist, coloring for the books.
Yeah.
Well, as a colorist, I use Photoshop almost exclusively.
Makes sense.
Yeah, and it's funny, too, because I remember back in the day, because Wendy had hired me to draw ElfQuest because she met me at Comic-Con, and she had drawn some pictures of our characters because she was a fan of Dragon Ball Z. So I surprised her, and I drew her main character, Cutter, with our characters, and she hired me on the spot to draw ElfQuest. And I said, look, I'm excited to do this, but I really would like to be your apprentice. And she said, really? You know what that means? You know, you're going to have to come out to California. And I said, fine, I'll move to California. And so I moved out to California and worked in her studio. But at the time, she was trying to get me to use Photoshop. And I just resisted it because I was a painter. You know, I was a portrait artist for 5 years. That's how I made my living, painting pictures of in acrylics. So to do something in Photoshop at the time just seemed like
awkward.
Cheating.
Awkward transition.
Yeah, and a little beneath me. It's just like, it's blasphemy. And so I told her, Wendy, I like to get my hands dirty, you know. Well, cut to a few years later, and somebody had given me a Photoshop program to play around with, and I started playing around with it, and I realized that it uses the same techniques that I do as a painter, and more. You know, it requires a lot more skills, and so I started really getting into it, and I started doing all these experiments and stuff, and I would post on Facebook. Well, Wendy was watching what I was doing with them, and so when they said, who would you like to use as a color, she said, I want to use Sonny. So, it's all Photoshop.
Sweet.
Wow.
Sonny, I'm going to head out now, but I'd just like to thank you for your time and the answers you provided. They were great.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, thank you, man. It's great being on here. I guarantee this is the longest I've ever indulged an interview. I didn't even realize how long it had been.
Yeah, same with us.
Yeah, no, yeah.
We have like 2 more questions, so
okay.
But yeah,
it's involved.
Peace out, guys.
Take
care,
care,
man.
Thanks for coming out, man.
Yeah, later, dog.
Of one of your let me see if I can have it right here. So this is from the Berserk Fury, our resident kind of anime kind of. Well, she loves you to death, basically.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
Yeah, ask him some of her questions.
Super fan.
So
Yeah.
So what were you saying? You cut out.
So, yeah, of any of your most recent works, or any recent works have you done, which one would you think would be a good fit for
A
Toonami?
good addition to Toonami.
Yeah.
My drawings?
Oh, no, shows that you've been
like
on.
shows you've been working on. that
Oh,
you voiced.
I know
Would you
for a
say?
fact Assassination Classroom would kill on Toonami.
Mm-hmm.
Assassination
I've
Classroom,
never
I'm
seen
surprised
that.
it's not on there already because it is so popular around the world already, and it is such a good show. It's funny and it's deep and it's heartfelt. I think it would go over really well.
I know that they made a I've been seeing stuff I think on the Funimation page about them doing a live action. Is it true that they did a live action of the prison
Yeah,
school?
I've seen some of it. The Japanese have made a live action version. It'd be cool if we dubbed that too, but I would really like to see the animation get on Toonami. I think that would be so cool.
Yeah, see, I think those action ones really do well. I mean, like Akame ga Kill and all those ones, and to be with Dragon Ball Z and then another one like that, like the prison one, I think they would actually do go well because, I mean, you see how well they've done.
I don't know about Prison School. I mean, I don't know if they could get it on the air. There's just it's so risque, and I would hate to see it edited to fit television.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
But it's at night,
uh,
so you know.
It's a night.
yeah, that's true. But
gotta
even
push the
so, that show is dirty.
Well, there's a lot of.
I don't know if
too.
they could get away with the stuff like with Kill la Kill.
Yeah. Well, no,
Yeah.
no. Dude,
Here's
no.
the thing. I mean, Prison School is a very, very risque show.
Yeah, like
and
high school.
it is
DxD,
very,
I'm
it
guessing.
is very dirty as well. But I tell you what, but this show is such a solid plot to it that I really respect it. I really like the show, and I would hate to see these elements taken out so that it could be better suited for TV.
Yeah.
It's.
That could be the
that's a
reason why it's
tough
not
one.
on there, though, too.
Yeah.
Possibly.
Yeah.
And Jason even mentioned recently they tried getting Lupin, and they couldn't do it because there was just too much censoring. So
Yeah.
that's a
Yeah. I mean,
possibility.
Fujiko got naked in every one of those woman called Fujiko Minays. It's like we saw Fujiko Nenes.
Mayonnaise.
Yeah. It's a good series, though. I
Yes,
love
it is.
playing Lupin in it, but it's a little too risque for television. Maybe if it was HBO or something.
It's one of those.
That would make sense.
It's the
you know.
things that
Yeah.
you should buy with DVD. I mean, that's why I got the Funimation subscription, man. So because
Yeah.
you can watch everything basically. So
Yeah.
is there is there anything that you would like to directly promote that if people would watch this, I mean, go and actually watch it?
I tell you, I really want to promote the subscriptions to Funimation. First of all, they're not very expensive, but also you got access to so many shows, and you got access to them just about as they're coming out from Japan. It is such a cool thing to be on the cutting edge of these shows coming out, and there's some amazing things on there. So I would promote that. There's a lot of shows I can't promote. Most of the shows I've done this year I can't even talk about yet because we haven't got them out yet. But they should be, especially the DVDs. Now, I did some broadcast dubs that were out that were pretty cool. Maria the Virgin Witch is one.
Yes, I've watched that, and I do like that one.
The other one was Makagura High School Suite. And the other stuff I can't talk about. Definitely read ElfQuest. Check out ElfQuest from Dark Horse. You can see my coloring work in that. I'm working on a comic book.
How would we go about if someone would go about doing the ElfQuest thing? Because if I want
go to a comic book shop, you can order them at the comic book shop.
I don't have a comic book shop near me. I got a Barnes and Noble. My comic book shop is Amazon, sadly enough.
I think you can find it on Amazon.
question.
Do you have it on
look
your...
at ElfQuest: The Final Quest on Amazon.
Okay.
The first graphic novel's out, I know.
Do you have it on your website too?
Yeah.
Of ElfQuest?
By any chance?
Maybe. You can also read my webcomic that was originally published at Tokyo Pop called We Shadows, W-E Shadows, WeShadows.com, and you can see a lot of my work there.
Is that the one with the talking mushroom?
Yeah, that's the talking mushroom one.
Okay, yeah, because I saw that, and I mean, I read the description, and I was like, wow. Like, it's one of those things where, like, you know.
I'm actually pretty proud of that one. That was nominated by the American Library Association for Best Graphic Novel 2008. And it was written up in Publishers Weekly and stuff. When I was first starting out as a cartoonist and fantasized about getting interviewed and getting written up and stuff, I was thinking things like trade magazines like Comics Journal and stuff like that. I never thought that Publishers Weekly would give a crap about something I did. And here they were writing these glowing reviews of my book, and I was like, this is amazing.
Well, Sonny, we got a question from one of our
Good
members
buddies.
that isn't here with us right now, but from Silver. He asked, can one of you guys do me a favor and ask Sonny if he could do a Kamehameha or Destructo disc on the Google chat?
All right, just for you guys. Kame! Hame! Ha!
Nice, man.
Yeah.
Awesome, man. Thank you.
Now we can talk.
Yeah, we're going to have lozenges.
I have lots of lozenges.
Yeah, the One Piece in that, man. So.
Well, I have one last question for you before we wrap
You said
it up.
that 3 questions ago.
Yeah, I know.
5 questions later.
This one I just came up, and it's an important one, I think. It relates to Intruder, and basically with how Episode 6 of The Intruder 2, of the special that's going on now, as you know how it all ended, it's in a way sort of your chapter of being in the Toonami universe coming to a close overall, with the Intruder and your character being retired and so on and so on. I'm just curious, how do you feel about that overall, this whole Toonami run? And
I'll tell you something, the biggest lesson I've learned, and I learned it from Krillin, is never say die.
Okay.
There's no telling. They may bring him back. Maze Hughes, I thought when he died that was the end of that character, and then I had to come back as Envy playing Hughes, and then I had to come back as Hughes as a Nazi in a movie, and then I had to come back as Hughes in Brotherhood, and then I thought, okay, that's the end of him. Then they started doing these OVAs with Hughes, so no, I will not say goodbye to Toonami 1. Tom 1 is still probably out there, and if they can come up with another idea, he may come back again.
I love your answer.
That's one thing I learned in my career. My characters tend to come back.
Yeah.
Krillin died 4 frickin' times.
Yeah. Man into man. So.
Yeah.
Well, I think that pretty much sums up everything. Sonny, thank you so much for doing this. We really appreciate it. Holy crap.
Hey, guys, thanks for having me on. I had a really good time.
So where can we follow
glad.
you on social media?
I'm glad. I'm really
follow
glad
me
that
at Sonny Strait on Twitter, SONNYSTRAIT. Please do, because I'm going to see if I can break 10,000 this year.
we will definitely try to help you with that.
Oh,
okay.
So
yeah, I mean, it was like not anything I cared about last year, and then all of a sudden I'm promoting all these shows I'm directing, so I was like, wow, look at these numbers go up. This is cool.
Fantastic.
Awesome. Well,
you can also follow me on Facebook, but I'm always maxed out on Facebook.
Yeah.
Twitter, I prefer Twitter. Yeah.
So we'll throw you a little shout out in there. Facebook.
Thank
Twitter.
you.
A big shout
And
out.
maybe someday I'll start doing that Instagram thing and all the other things you kids play around with.
I can't understand that stuff. So
I use it.
I don't get it either. It's like, why would somebody come up with the perfect social media that's one social media? No, we need to be distracted all day. You don't understand.
All day and night. Don't forget the nighttime. You gotta have.
What if I'm
nice to get
sitting
lucky,
on the
man.
toilet and I've checked everything on Twitter? I need something else to check out.
Mm-hmm. I must
And
fill the
Facebook is just for old people. Come on.
gap.
Why don't you kids have Facebook?
I gotta have 14 different social medias. I'm important.
with my friends and family.
When my grandkids come visit me,
If I got rid of some of these social medias, I'd have to go out and meet people.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't want to do that. I'm not leaving this room.
I'd rather talk to you on chat and type in my little computer rather than go and talk to you face to face.
Right, because it's scary, and I have to smell you, and we might exchange hormones and stuff. I don't want to do it.
Facebook.
Alright, well, thank you for
My
everything.
face on your book.
All right.
All right, guys.
Sonny,
Thanks
this
so
was
much for having me
amazing.
on.
Thank you so
Take
much.
care.
Again,
No
we
problem.
really appreciate it, and thank you for everything you've contributed to Toonami. From us and the fans, thank you for being the original Tom. You know, regardless, thank you so much. You've been, even though Steve Bloom has had his fair share of impacting people, you technically started it all, and we really appreciate everything that you've done for Toonami. Thank you so much.
Well, and in that vein, I will close saying with what Toonami Tom used to say, "Carpe diem, babies."
Bye.
Adios,
Bye.
man. Thank you
Later.
so much.
Thank you.